Hello and welcome to a new video. My name is Anna. I'm going to be a fourth year university student. I make videos on studying and related things. And today's video is a video on some studying advice because the new school year has already begun. The academic year might have already begun. For some people, it might soon be approaching. So I thought I would do a video on some advice which I think is valuable and useful because over the summer holidays you get out of the routine of studying and it's hard to get back into that routine again. So I thought I would do a video on some advice. I hope it helps someone. I hate this piece of advice so much. It's to review your notes often. I don't like this piece of advice because I don't follow it. I don't do it. I always set out for myself that I will. I always think I will review my notes like once a week. I even create like a plan for that. But no, I never go through with it. But I thought I would mention it because it is valuable advice and I should follow it myself. So I thought I would mention it too. It can be small. It doesn't have to be reviewing everything like every day. It could just be the topics which you struggle with the most from that week, or subjects that you struggle with the most, or kind of prioritize the subjects which you want to spend more time on and then review those. So for example, if you're doing A-levels and you're doing A-level psychology and geography like I did, I cared more about psychology, so I was always reviewing psychology. You could do the same, just review the topics or subjects which you struggle with the most. And it doesn't have to be every week, it could be every 2 weeks. Kind of figure out what works best for you. The next piece of advice is to use acronyms. I love this. I've used this so many times during my A-levels and during university. Well, when I had my notes, I would, if there was like a long, complicated piece of text, then I would pick out the main important things and give them like a letter. If you're struggling to remember the areas of the brain, you could write a letter for each area of the brain, corresponding letters to what that area of the brain is responsible for. And then that way you don't have to remember the whole text, you just have to remember a couple of letters. And you could also associate them with something, so it's easier for you to remember, but I always used to do this, or like draw little diagrams as well next to the letters. Next advice is to be independent with your learning. So that just means don't rely on other people and other people's notes. It's fine if you do. For example, if you use someone's notes and you know that they did well, you can use them and that's fine. Try to make them your own as well. Maybe add annotations of your own because then you're more likely to remember it. Like there are often many times where I remember making certain notes, like I remember like what I was doing then. That can trigger the memory. But if you just rely on other people's notes and the textbook, for example, then you're not actively learning the content, you're less likely to remember what you're learning. Whereas if you make your own notes or do something by yourself when you're revising, like, I don't know, act out what you are reading, then you're more likely to remember it. Alongside that, there are so many online resources that are amazing, so I do recommend you use them, but also try to make them your own as well, because that way you're more likely to remember them. Don't skim over things that you don't understand, and you might say to yourself, this will not turn up in the exam, but you don't have to learn the thing that you're struggling with off by heart. If you're really struggling, if you just have some sort of understanding of it, it can always gain you some marks. Don't skim over those topics. Highlight them, make them stick out, and try to spend more time on them to at least have some sort of understanding of them. Make your revision material kind of personal to you. That would mean like the acronyms, associating something with something from your life maybe. There are so many techniques which are amazing, like visualizing your room, different pieces of information in your room. Maybe try to create a story, because when in doubt, when you can't remember anything, you could think back to that and that can trigger the memory of what you were trying to learn. A lot of the things that I'm saying are to do with active recall, which I will talk about a bit more in future videos, but it's kind of the best way for you to learn and remember the things you are learning, because you are actively learning them and not just skimming and reading before the exam. Another active recall kind of technique is to test yourself. I did this a lot. You could write revision cards with the questions on what you are revising. It could be questions on a revision card, or it could be words, and you yourself have to come up with a question for it. What I did at university was for each topic, I would try to create test questions like that, and then I would try to answer them and go over them when I was revising, or try to come up with maybe your own kind of exam question and try to answer it and then check with your notes and see how you did. But testing yourself and asking yourself questions, it's an active recall technique, so it's very helpful and it helps you remember things much better. The last piece of advice is when you are making revision material, try to make it for someone else. I think I heard this somewhere during my GCSEs or during A-levels. If you can explain it to a child, then you know it very well. Like if you try to explain something complicated to a child, that's when you know something very well. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. And then what I've heard, when you're creating revision material, try to make it for someone else. If you were to teach someone who has no knowledge on what you are studying, if you were to teach someone this particular topic, what would you include in that revision material? What would you tell them so that they fully understand? And if you try to like make your revision material like that and then try to like speak out loud or maybe even teach someone what you are learning, it's very helpful because you're basically teaching yourself everything that is important and you need to know. And it is also kind of creative, and if you are a creative person, then this is a great technique. Those were kind of the things I wanted to share, studying techniques or advice that is helpful for studying. I hope you found this video helpful. I hope it reminded you of some study techniques, because we often forget about them. Summer comes and then you just forget about everything, and it's wonderful, and then you have to go back to studying, and that is not fun. If you want any more studying advice, other sort of videos, please let me know what you would like to hear. I think I will be making a video on active recall or a similar type of video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.